Let's get to Dave Roberts, Matt. Some interesting conversations from Dave Roberts. Obviously, there's been speculation all offseason about his contract. At the beginning of the offseason, it was kind of like, hey, you know what? Once we get done with signing players, we'll talk to Dave. And then they signed players, and then they signed more players, and then they signed more players, and then more players, and then more players. And so here we are, pitchers and catchers reporting. And Dave Roberts is a lame duck manager, Matt. He went on Baseball Tonight radio, Baseball Tonight podcast, excuse me, indicating they have just started talking about a contract extension. He said this, quote, hopefully everything takes care of itself. It's about value, and I love this organization. But yeah, you want to feel your value. Absolutely. Worth pointing out that Dave Roberts last season was the 11th highest paid manager in baseball at $3.25 million, less than half of what Craig Counsell was making to not make the playoffs with the Chicago Cubs. That was 5 years and $40 million. That Dave Roberts, as I mentioned, going into the final year of a 3-year extension signed in 2022. Do you expect, I mean, it's got to get done before opening day, right, Matt?
I would imagine so. I mean, I still do. Yes. To me, though, the takeaway was kind of how candid and frank I think Dave Roberts was about the value aspect. And I know I've mentioned this on a couple other shows that we've done. My gut and my hunch was sort of telling me that I feel like his salary might be not a sticking point, but a little bit. And I think Dave coming out and saying you want to be valued, my interpretation of that, and it doesn't mean that I'm right. You could obviously have other people could have taken it differently.
No,
but that was my interpretation of, hey, like, I want to be here. It makes sense for me to be here. It makes sense for both parties. But they're like, you're not going to get me at $6 million a year type thing anymore.
Yeah, $6 million would make him the second highest paid manager. So if I'm Dave, like, there's a couple things. I just said he signed a 3-year contract that paid him less than $10 million total over the course of that 3-year deal, according to the numbers that we have. Craig Counsell has signed his deal since then. He was in a unique situation where he was essentially a free agent, which most managers never get to. Again, the team he left made the playoffs. The team he came to didn't. So take that for what it's worth. I was initially skeptical that Dave Roberts would actually get more than Craig Counsell, because basically it's Counsell at $8 million a year, and then it's like Torey Lovullo at $5 million a year, and then it's a bunch of guys around $4 million. So I wondered if the Dodgers were going to be like, look, Dave, we love you. That contract is stupid. Like, that's not the market. So maybe you're going to be in that $6.5, $7 million range, but we actually aren't going to negotiate off the $8 million number because it's fake. It's not, it's crazy talk. It's sort of the Deshaun Watson contract in the NFL. It's like, yes, that technically did happen. Nobody's ever doing it again. But then Dave goes out and wins the World Series. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's now won 2 World Series. He's the best winning percentage in Major League history. He has all these things going for him. And oh, by the way, he just watched his team spend about $2 billion in the last 2 off seasons. And he goes, hey, Andrew, guess what? I know you have the cash and there's no luxury tax implications on my salary. So I would be shocked if it's less than 5 years. And I would be shocked, Matt, at this point, if it's less than $10 million a year. I think it's going to be 5 years and $50 million for Dave Roberts, almost as a starting point, because you can't go less years than Counsell got, and you can't go less money either.
I think the only way you get away with less money, at least from like an AAV standpoint, is if you give him more
like
years.
7 years or something.
Right. And if it's, $7 million a season, so he's not quite hitting 8, but he has the larger guarantee because it's more of a long-term commitment than what Counsell, even though Counsell's was 5 years, right? You said?
Yeah. Counsell made 5 years, $40 million. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do they go 7 years, 49 million type thing? Like maybe that's how, but I think if you're Dave, and I think he is mindful of this, it's difficult for these managers, right? Like, yep, these games, like, the teams win. And this was a unique situation for Dave Roberts. He got a lot of credit because of the Dodgers had 3 starting pitchers for all of the playoffs. And so, he was needing to really manage the bullpen well. And that hadn't been his strong suit over recent years. And so the spotlight was really on him. But more times than not, the team wins, you're not hearing about the manager. The team loses, the manager's getting fired. And then after that, maybe it's the general manager and stuff like that. And Dave is mindful of that. And I think he could look at it. And it's a reason argument of, hey, I have won 2 World Series as a manager. My winning percentage is this. I don't have issues in my clubhouse like some of these, the favorite team we like to mention of having all the talent down in San Diego, but not being able to
Not anymore.
True. Back then, not being able to keep them together and needing, I think your phrase was an adult in the room, if I'm remembering correctly. The Dodgers have not had those issues.
Nope.
And so you add all that stuff up, and if Dave Roberts would almost be selling future managers short if he were to take kind of a team friendly deal, if you will. And I think he's mindful of that. And I get it, like, because look, like the managers are first 9 times out of 10, they're first on the chopping block.
I'm glad you said this, Matt, because as soon as you sort of went down that path, I found myself completely in agreement. Dave Roberts is the type of guy who believes that the managers are a fraternity, and he sees himself as having an opportunity to help every other manager that is currently employed and every other manager that will future be employed by saying, if I take less than what Craig Counsell got, I am going to validate and vindicate exactly what this guy Jeff just said on this podcast, which is that contract's ridiculous and we're not even going to negotiate off of it. If he gets less than $8 million, the Craig Counsell numbers disappear from history. They disappear from every negotiation. And so I think Dave recognizes the leverage he has with the Dodgers, but also the unique position kind of in quote unquote history that he is in to say, I can do something that is going to benefit every manager that comes after me, because now the new norm is not going to be 5 million. It's going to be 10 million. And Dave has the ability to do that. He has owners he knows can afford to pay him, and he has all of the leverage in the world. So I think what you just said is totally true. And it's why I think he gets to $8 million, more than $8 million in the AAV, at least in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, even if he does, like, we, kind of raise the bar or maintain it at minimum, like, it still is a rare group, right? 100%. But it at least creates the opportunity. Like the Mets aren't going to go and give, I shouldn't have used them because now their manager's name is escaping me. Whoever their manager is, like, if he's up for a contract extension and they haven't necessarily won a World Series, he's not going to be able to say, hey, well, wait a minute, Dave Roberts got this money. Like, why am I? Like, it still is going to require, I think, a certain level of success for you to reach it. Yeah. But at least Dave Roberts would have created that opportunity. Whereas, yeah, if he comes in and says, hey, just pay me $5 million a year, I'm fine with that, then it hurts the market. And I think he feels that responsibility and as you mentioned, like, wants to, be sure to set it. The Craig Counsell thing, I mean, that was ironically the Cubs doing it when they don't have money. Somehow they found money to pry the manager away from Milwaukee. And I get it. Like, I sort of get it, but I don't I guess that's what it took. I should say I get it from the standpoint of, I guess you had to quote unquote overpay to get Craig Counsell to make that change.
Yeah.
Short of something like that, I mean, I don't necessarily think it was, and I don't want to be critical of somebody's earning power, but I don't think it was warranted, really. Like, Craig Counsell, he's a good manager. I don't think he's anything great. Obviously doesn't have a World Series during his managerial career. So yeah, that is still a little bit of an outlier, but it does exist. And Dave Roberts now, it's a perfect storm for him. Not only did the Dodgers just win the World Series, as you mentioned, not only has the team been on a huge spending spree, but he also had his fingerprints all over their October run last year.
I will say, looking at the highest paid managers, I'll just read you the list in order. I mean, this is comical. Like, some of the owners, just be thankful these aren't your owners. So Counsell number 1, Torey Lovullo number 2, fine. Bruce Bochy number 3. This is the one that kills me. Ron Washington is the 4th highest paid manager in Major League Baseball with the Angels. Ron Washington. Stephen Vogt tied, Bob Melvin tied, Mike Schilt tied, Brian Snitker tied. Those guys all make $4 million. And you've got David Martinez and Aaron Boone, 9-10, and then Roberts, followed by Cora, Kevin Cash, Derek Shelton, and then Carlos Mendoza for the Mets, making 14th highest paid, $1.5 million.
Yeah, sorry not to cut you off, but that's Alex Cora is another name to sort of keep an eye on with this stuff too. I mean, he is well regarded, I think, in the industry by a lot of people, and he's somebody who I think
not all people.
We'll be looking to get a raise.
Absolutely. So again, something to keep an eye on as we head deeper and deeper into spring training, because I just can't imagine this doesn't get done prior to opening day.